Look at me being a goddamn professional. Professional shirt. Professional pants. Professional lights. We're good to go. I'm going to talk about Horizon Zero Dawn to you today. Horizon Zero Dawn, when I first played it, turned my gray matter into a fine mist on the back wall. Saying that it blew my mind is a little bit of an understatement, but in the past 4 years since it released, its luster's slackened a little bit. Little did I know how much it represented both a peak and a depth for what I'll affectionately refer to as the run and gather genre. The GTA clone is a bit outdated as far as calling something a GTA clone, but every game has followed in those similar footsteps, and Horizable Zibble Dibble is not an exception to that. You have an open world, there are things to collect, things to craft, and then you're going to consume those, and you're going to collect, and you're going to craft again. Except you get to collect every 10 fucking picometers. However, all of those elements that are in this game that make it that run and gather genre, they're about as common as dragons are in fantasy, but here they're done to the best extent possible without becoming so fucking tedious that only basement-dwelling autists could get any enjoyment out of it. I'd say visually, this is one of few games that looks so goddamn good. After almost 30 hours, even beating the campaign on ball-busting difficulty, I was still enamored with the lighting and the texture design. It's phenomenal, it really is. And generally I couldn't give a shit less about graphics after a couple hours, but in this case, they were exceptional. And the only reason that gives me pause for concern is that if I were engaged with the gameplay, I probably wouldn't have noticed the graphics quite as much. It was far more impressive on the PS4, but even on my PC, it looked and ran rather well. I got it at 2K, averaging 70 to 90 frames per second, and it felt relatively smooth while I was playing it. I would say there's one glaring omission to my fellation of this game is that Hong Zong Dong could not for the life of them figure out how to make things look soft. Every strand of hair was lovingly rendered, but it looked like porcupine quills. The few times that you saw like billowing clouds or smoke or anything like that, it was the exact same issue. They could not make things look soft to save their fucking lives. The audio wasn't bad, but it definitely felt like it was playing second fiddle to everything else. The footsteps didn't change in volume despite what armor upgrades I had. And best music in the game, hands down, was in the menus, which doesn't bode well for the rest of the soundtrack. Overall, I'd say the gameplay loop is not terrible, but after 4 years of playing so many iterations wearing the still dripping faces of one another, it's just not that engaging anymore. A great example of what it is, but what it is somewhat boring. And the devs, they fucking knew it too, I'm telling you. For example, the healing herbs that you can only gather by stopping every 10 seconds to stoop down and pick up are conveniently scattered everywhere, but it breaks the flow little by little by little to the point where collection of them becomes an event. Like I need to stop and pick up fucking flowers because I can't go buy them from a shop for some reason. I need these healing herbs, but I can only get them if I take this time to pick them up. And the healing herbs are effectively Neosporin on a gunshot wound, so I have to do it for fucking 30 minutes to get a full pouch of them. And I know that the devs know that that's dumb because it's a mechanic that they give you and then immediately make slightly less stupid with your very first upgrades, instead of just making the mechanic not an asinine exercise in stopping every 10 seconds from pressing E. By and large, the gameplay itself, when you actually get to play the game, is a good time. The robots are varied, and your ability to deal with them is also varied. On harder difficulties, it really shines exactly half the time, and comes back to the whole, it's fun when you get to play. The stealth on harder difficulties requires far more patience than is warranted, and it's so boring compared to the open combat. Open combat requires good positioning, good placement, good shot placement. The dismemberment or component removal for the kiddies is a good touch, and it lets you find ways around the nearly ineffective brute force method that's going to have you blowing through arrows faster than your mom does at a truck stop. I will concisely list my gripes. I think we all need to collectively agree that upgrade systems are not a requirement for action, venture, or run and gather games. You don't have to do it. I want the modern gaming industry just to please repeat after me. I do not need to have an upgrade system if I have a diverse tool system. You can have one or the other. And I'm going to put this limitation on you because every time you think you can do both, it comes out half-baked, soggy, and full of fucking nut. It's disgusting. Bake your nut thoroughly before serving. Devil May Cry 5, Serious Sam 4, they did the same shit. But you look at Bulletstorm, or better yet, Painkiller, they give you a bunch of tools, maybe some upgrades for those tools, and then go forth and kill assholes. And it works great. Hodge, Zodge, Dodge has upgrades that immediately indicate that the devs also think some of the regular activities that they give you are tedious and boring. And that's evidenced by the most useful and critical upgrades that you need being the earliest and the cheapest. They cost 1 point and they are all in that top row that you can unlock almost immediately. Stealth is fun, by the way. It can be. Yours is not. And I don't really know why yours leaves such a bad taste in my mouth, but I'm telling you, it's not that hard to make good stealth. For some reason, your stealth isn't really hard enough to be satisfying when I do it right, but it's also annoying enough for me not to want to try to do it at all. Especially on the harder difficulties where I'm a 1 or 2 hit kill. I don't want to fucking deal with it. Especially when it's from enemies that are not 1 or 2 hit kills. Stealth is just not effective, and it ends up making the game more fucking tedious. Also, why... If I shoot a human enemy, fuck human enemies in this game. Why when I shoot a human enemy in the face, it's like 100 points of damage. But if they like brush against me with their fucking thick bosoms, I take 300 points of damage and I'm almost on the floor. It's bullshit. And that's if my arrow gets counted as a hit, because I'm fucking sick of watching arrows pass through enemies. If you don't want to invest in good hit detection, that's fine. That you don't have to. But don't give me trails showing me that you didn't invest in good hit detection, you smarmy motherfuckers. I really wish that this game was as good as I remember it was. And there are good parts, and I don't want to act like there aren't. The combat's engaging and difficult when you actually get to participate, and the side challenges are extremely beneficial and genuinely challenging. But it's, and the spoilers going forward, it's stacked against mechanics that even the devs don't want me to use. Like from the get-go, they don't want me to use them. The map is most engaging in the late game from the fast travel menu. And there's too many just half-baked semen sliders, especially that ending. I don't want to spoil the ending entirely, but they killed off the bad guy. And then the bad guy was alive. Ooh, sequels. Fuck you. That's dumb. Your writing was okay, interesting. It definitely felt like you came up with one concept and then built the game that direction, like backwards. But it wasn't awful. I will say that Hibby Zibby Dibby is just another entry in a line of games that all want to have their dick in every pie they can to appeal to as wide of an audience as possible. And Horizon Zero Dawn's not a bad example of pie fucking. But all you get from fucking pies is a fruit-covered dick and probably syphilis.